Welcome, friends. My name is Chad Sands. I'm VP of Marketing at CloudLex and editor of the Trial Lawyers Journal. And a few years ago, we started the Trial Lawyers Journal with the first #1 edition. And then last year, we had our #2 edition. And today, I'm excited to share the new #3 Trial Lawyers Journal, which is now shipping out to members. And if you're interested and want to join and support the community, check out triallawyersjournal.com, our website, and sign up for $100 and you will get #1, #2, #3 sent to you next week, and that you will also receive #4 when it comes out next year. And so let's do this. We have the cover artwork of TLJ #3, and with every cover, we try to hide Easter eggs in the artwork. This was done by an artist named Gabriella Creasy, who is based out of Santa Barbara. And you'll kind of see some nods to the articles here on the cover, little Easter eggs, as I said, and beautiful colors. It's really impressive to see in print, and love this cover and the colors. So let's just go through the pages. TLJ is presented by CloudLex and LexVia. There are over 130 pages in each edition and only about 6 pages of ads, which is pretty amazing. Here we see the table of contents, so I'll just quickly walk through all of these articles so you guys can get a sneak peek at the artwork and some of the themes that we're talking about. But we do open up with a little tribute to Gerry Spence, who we lost this year. I actually had the privilege of meeting him once. He lived in Montecito, which is, I live in Santa Barbara, so I'm actually about 15 minutes away from his house. And he had an event a couple years ago where he invited some of the members from Thunderhead Ranch and the Gerry Spence Method to his house for a little art show. And I actually got to attend that and actually got to speak with Gerry, and that was pretty special. And so obviously a little tribute to Gerry Spence. The first article we have is The Power of Referrals. This was written by Jim Vickaryous, who's based out of Florida. He was actually on the season 2 Celebrating Justice podcast as well. This is a really nice, I like to call it a warm article. Again, he's based out of Florida, so he kind of had this Florida pastels look and feel, and just the tone in the voice in this article that talks about referrals and managing referrals is just a great way to kick off #3. So thanks to Jim for contributing. He also is the author of a book called Being a Lawyer, I believe it's called. So definitely check that out. And he posts and writes a lot of articles for the Florida Bar. The next article, or interview, I should say, MPMP, Mike Papantonio, Made Perfect. This was an interview I did earlier this year, and kind of is a little bit of a journey of my own career in legal tech and into the world of personal injury law, and also touches on Mike's career as an author as well as a lawyer and the work he has done with mass torts made perfect over the past 25 years. I actually talked to him a lot about his new novel called The Middleman, which talks and touches on PBMs, or pharmacy benefit managers. So I get to talk about private equity in corporate America. So that was fun and interesting and a good read as well. I do touch on a little bit of the novel. Mike's a great, fun legal thriller writer with interesting characters, and we talk and chat about some of that stuff. That's MPMP. Next up, we have A Supreme Writing Revolution. This was written by Jill Barton, who is at the University of Miami. As a horrible proofreader, I was nervous to even submit this to print, even though I didn't touch it, and I know Jill reviewed it. But this is one of my favorite layouts that we had. These colors just look amazing in print again. And this is an excerpt of her book that she wrote and has gotten a lot of great feedback and response from the Supreme Court justices even. So once again, Jill, thanks for contributing. And this has a lot of writing tips that you guys might want to take note of, and then get her book, The Supreme Guide to Writing. Next up, we have The Art of Zen in the Courtroom, Balancing Control and Letting Go. This is by Stephen B. Barrett. This is kind of a little meditative journey with Siddhartha into finding clarity and balance in the courtroom. Stephen Barrett was also a guest on season 1 of Celebrating Justice. If you want to check out that episode, he's based in Philadelphia. After that, we have our article on responsible AI and legal tech, ethics and everyday practice. This was written by Dev Shrotri, who is one of the founders of CloudLex. This article touches on some of the how should I say it? Some of the movement in legal tech around AI, and also touches on CloudLex's unique approach to responsible AI. That's something that we have adopted here at CloudLex. And so this touches on, what is going on in legal tech, how artificial intelligence is impacting that, and what, companies like CloudLex are doing to be responsible and lead into the future with adopting the technology, but in a responsible way, human first. After that, we have Justice for All Creatures, the ALDF. This was an article I did with Chris Green, who is the executive director at the ALDF, the Animal League Defense Fund. He had an interesting journey going from a music kind of production to legal nonprofit, and just something that we wanted to kind of shine a spotlight on. Each volume, we try and do an article on a nonprofit. In volume 2, we did an article on the Environmental Defense Center, who is based in Santa Barbara, and actually some of what they're doing with the pipeline and oil drilling off of Santa Barbara coast is actually relevant now. So this one, in number 3, we featured the ALDF and some of the work they do for animal rights, and just a lot of cool, interesting stuff that we wanted to bring more awareness to. That's the ALDF. And then I snuck in a couple nonprofits here. This is Canopy Cat Rescue. They're out of Washington State. They rescue cats stranded in trees. Soul Harbor Ranch, an animal therapy program based out of Chicago. We also have Project Canine Hero, that is a nonprofit that supports military and police working dogs who need medical assistance. And then there's also an interview we did with Project Street Vet, which is a nonprofit by a CNN Person of the Year who started it. And so these are just little snippets. You'll be able to read the full interviews and articles online, but wanted to, again, shine the spotlight on some animal nonprofits. We're kind of ending my animal sequence here somehow that landed in number 3 with Brian Cuban, who lost his cat earlier this year, Mimi. And he wrote this essay poem that he sent out that we also included in number 3, Brian. I did an interview with him in TLJ number 1. So thanks for contributing again, Brian. After that, we have A Labor of Love, Embracing Mexican Heritage Through Art. This was an article we did with Gina Zapanta, who is based out of Los Angeles with Alder Law. And I did an interview with her, and this is actually on her family's art collection, which is one of the most impressive art collections of Mexican artists. It's one of the most impressive collections that her father, Richard, had started, and over the past few decades has just grown into an amazing collection. So we kind of talk about the art and her family's story, and I actually got to see some of these pieces in a person, and they are incredible to see, and also great, again, in the printed edition. But obviously, like all art, when you see it in person, it's a little bit different. But this is a great story, and we did this interview earlier this year, and excited to kind of share that with all of you guys as our kind of featured art piece in number 3. After that, we get back into the trial law stories with Hurricane Hustle. I'm just seeing this chat here. Jody, thanks. At least I know someone's watching this and it's working. Hurricane Hustle, inside the rise and fall of MMA. This is a little bit of a case study and story about a firm that took on a little bit too much in terms of lead generation and mass torts and working with outside vendors, specifically a company called Velocity. And the firm MMA got in a little bit too deep, and it is a case study on kind of private equity and what's going on with law firms who are trying to expand. And it's a little bit of a warning lesson, and I think an interesting story that applies to a lot of different stuff that's going on. We talk about private equity and non-lawyers and what Arizona is doing in Volume 1, and this article touches on that a little bit, and that is Hurricane Hustle. And so what would we go from Hurricane Hustle to kind of the flip side of that, to the magic trick of the Mike Morse law firm. This is written by Tony Albrecht, who's based out of Canada, founder of Contender, LinkedIn ghostwriter. And so I had interviewed Mike on season 2 for Celebrating Justice, and have known Tony for a couple years as well. If you don't follow those guys on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. But this is a nice kind of, I would say, a Cliff Notes version of Mike's fireproof methodology. And so if you haven't heard of the fireproof method, that is something that Mike and his partner, John, and Gina Wickman have built out this fireproof performance method masterminds. And so this article is kind of like just a little bit of a sneak peek into that methodology. And I think it's also a nice contrast and juxtaposition to the Hurricane Hustle. Mike is definitely might be considered a billboard lawyer, but he obviously has his own Cherry Garcia, as he likes to say it. So that is the magic trick of the Mike Morse law firm that we have. And then we have this one, Yellowstone, a lesson in cross-examination. This is by Stephen R. Young, who's based down in Orange County, the last minute jury attorney. This is a great short story that is based from his youth, I believe. I don't know if it's a true story or not, but it's a good story. And Stephen contributed to Volume 2 and was on the Celebrating Justice podcast as well. And I am going to be releasing an interview with him that I did about his article in number 2 that was What Sitting Bull Can Teach You About Trial. So that's Yellowstone, a lesson in cross-examination. And then we have The Art of Losing by Gwilliam. Gerry was another guest on Celebrating Justice. This is an amazing layout. I think this is probably my favorite layout in the print edition. Also one of my favorite articles, great life lessons, and something I think that, a lot of personal injury lawyers talk about is not talking about their losses and facing that. And so that is The Art of Losing by Gwilliam. And that takes us into the end. There's that. I think there's six ads, record extract. And then we go into Celebrating Justice Season 2. This is all 26 interviews I did throughout this year. We did start with Gerry, Gwilliam, and Gigi Graska, lawyer Gigi, both GGs. I just noticed that a couple months ago, actually. And Gerry is the most experienced attorney I interviewed this year, and Gigi is the newest attorney. Joe Freed, episode 3, if you want to learn about Amazon and trucking. All of these have their own unique stories, their own journeys into trial law. Sharif Gray, a lot of former military people, actually. Alan Ripka has a great story about the Stay School Act that he helped pass. And we talk about Trump's signature that he has in his office. Roy T. Willie IV, we talked about one of his cases that I watched on Dateline a couple years ago. So all of these have their own stories. Lance Brubaker, me and him chat a lot about non-lawyers and what's going on in Arizona. Michael Alder just released last week, and we have the final 2 episodes Gerry Spence Methods Civil Trial Warrior of the Year from 2024, Tanya Ortega, who's based up in San Luis Obispo, just north of me. And then we end up with Mike Papantonio. So that is TLJ number 3, guys. And I will encourage you to visit triallawyersjournal.com, and you can join for free if you want access to the online articles. We will be releasing the articles for number 3 over the next few months. We're going to drip them out every couple weeks. So right now, the only way to get your hands on these articles to read is to join as an advocate member, where, again, you will be sent Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 that just came out. We'll send those to you guys next week. And then we will also be working on and releasing TLJ Volume 4. So thanks to all the contributors, and thanks for all your support. And if you guys have any questions, if you are interested in contributing, if you have stories you want to share on the podcast, if you have any case results or anything like that, please reach out, Chad, CHAD, at triallawyersjournal.com. And have a good Friday, everybody. Talk to you later.